Welcome back to my channel where forgotten horror stories are remembered. Tonight we are going to look at an episode that is infamous for all the wrong reasons. It's been called one of the worst episodes of any show ever. The acting was so bad it was good, and the plot was just insane. And yet this episode is loved by many people who claim that it's their favorite episode of the series. The episode I am talking about is Season 2, Episode 4. She Lives in the Walls. Our story begins with a flashback to 1898. A young woman named Alice is traveling with her boyfriend Harry when they decide to stop off at a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. They plan on staying the night here before continuing their travels. While Harry goes to fix the carriage, Alice explores the farmhouse and finds it to be in very poor condition. She finds a dead mouse on the floor, a dirty knife on the table, and a small girl sitting in the corner of the room. Startled, Alice screams, and the girl disappears. Alice never finds her again, but she does hear what sounds like children playing throughout the night. The next morning, Harry has fixed the carriage, and the couple is preparing to leave. That is when they find a local constable named Constable Giles, who explains that the farmhouse is supposedly haunted by a ghost named Mary Higgins, who is known to lure travelers inside and then feed them to her children who live in the walls. Harry thinks this is ridiculous and doesn't believe in ghosts, so he and Alice decide to stay another night to prove that there is nothing supernatural going on here. As darkness falls once more, Alice hears children laughing, and she also sees strange lights flickering inside the walls. Constable Giles arrives once more to warn them that if they don't leave immediately, Mary Higgins will kill them. But Harry still refuses to believe in ghosts, so Constable Giles leaves, warning them that he won't be able to save them from Mary Higgins. Alice can take it no longer and begs Harry to let her leave, but he refuses, saying that he isn't scared of some silly ghost. But while he is saying this, he accidentally stabs himself with a pair of scissors. With Harry injured, Alice flees the farmhouse in terror. As she runs through the dark, she sees the ghost of Mary Higgins standing over the road, beckoning for her to come closer. Alice screams and wakes up in her bed, shaken by the nightmare. She gets up and looks around. She realizes that she is in her own house and that the entire experience must have been a dream. Just then, she hears what sounds like a knock coming from inside the wall. Assuming that it was just her imagination, she ignores it and goes about her day. That night, however, the knocking returns and is now much louder. She even hears scratching and what sounds like whispers coming from inside the wall. Afraid to investigate, she hides under the covers until morning. Once the sun is shining in her room, she gets up and calls her friend Evelyn to come over. Evelyn soon arrives, and the two friends are eating breakfast together when they hear the noise coming from the wall. Once more, this time, they can hear footsteps and voices clearly whispering the name Hester. Alice goes to investigate, but as she reaches the wall, she hears a loud bang, and then sees a nail sticking out of the wall where her head would have been. Realizing that the wall is actually a hiding place for someone or something, Alice grabs a hammer and prepares to break a hole in the wall to find out who is living in there. Just then, the doorbell rings, and when she answers, she sees a little girl standing on her doorstep. Shaken, Alice tells the girl to leave, but the little girl insists on coming inside. As she enters the house, Alice notices that the girl seems to know its every secret passage and hiding place. And as she walks away, objects begin moving on their own. Soon, all of the furniture is moving towards the fireplace as if being drawn to it. And when Alice tries to stop it, the furniture knocks her down and continues moving until it is piled up against the wall. Just then, the little girl speaks, revealing that she is Mary Higgins, the ghost who lives in the walls. Mary says that she is trapped in the walls because she ate a magic cake that turned her into a spirit. She lived in the farmhouse with her two sons, and she hid in the walls to avoid being detected. She says that she hasn't been able to leave because she cannot cross running water. She reveals that she fed on the life force of travelers who stopped at the farmhouse, and that is why Alice kept having visions of her in the farmhouse in her dream. Mary explains that she only had one son, and her other child was just a figment of her imagination. She also reveals that Alice's nightmare about Harry being killed was not a dream, but a vision of the future. She says that Harry's blood will bring her son back to life, and that is why she lured Alice back to the house. Suddenly, Alice remembers Constable Giles warning her that Harry could not save her from Mary Higgins. She realizes that this means that Harry's blood will bring Mary's son back to life and become the new ghost who lives in the walls. To prevent this, Alice cuts her finger and drops her blood onto the ground, forming a puddle. Mary screams in agony as she is unable to cross the water and her son remains trapped in the walls. Alice and Evelyn run away as fast as they can, leaving Mary behind. Once they reach the safety of Evelyn's house, Alice looks back at her own home and sees Mary's face pressed against the window, screaming for them to come back. Alice knows that she has defeated Mary, but is saddened to think that Mary will spend eternity trapped in the walls with her son. This episode was written by Richard Manning and was originally titled The Ghost Who Walked Backwards. Upon its release, critics were extremely harsh on this episode. They hated the acting, they hated the plot, and they hated the ending. Fans were no kinder, and this episode quickly became notorious for all the wrong reasons. Over time, though, this episode began to gain a cult following. Many fans came to love the terrible dialogue, the unbelievable plot twists, and the wooden acting. This led to the episode being regarded by some as the best episode of the series ever. It even has its own fan page dedicated to it. So what makes this episode so bad? Well, for starters, we have the plot. The main character, Alice, is arguably the worst written character in the entire series. In fact, I can't think of a single sentence that she speaks in the entire episode. She spends most of her time screaming and running around like a headless chicken. Then we have the characters of Mary Higgins and her son. Why are they stuck in the wall? How did they get there in the first place? And why did they suddenly develop a taste for human flesh? There is absolutely no explanation given for any of this. It has just assumed that they re-ghosts who live in the walls and they like to eat people. But perhaps the worst part about this episode is the ending. After 23 minutes of building suspense and tension, we get this incredibly underwhelming conclusion. All of that build-up just to tell us that the ghosts just got bored and decided to move somewhere else. What? That's it? This is easily one of the worst conclusions to any episode in the history of horror. Even worse than Living Dog. But like I said before, this episode has gained a bit of a cult following over the years. People seem to love how bad it is. Even the legendary Roger Corman has said that this is his favorite episode of the series. Personally, I cannot see what people love about this episode. Yes, it is terribly written and acted, but I don't think that it's good. Bad. There is a difference, and I think that this episode is just plain bad. But what do you think? Is She Lives in the Walls the worst episode of The Outer Limits ever? Or is it the greatest? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Also, be sure to check out my social media accounts where I post updates and interact with fans. Until next time, I'm your host. Don't forget to keep the lights on.